Are you looking for a way to scale your short-term rental business and buy more properties? Well, co-hosting might be the right fit for you. Welcome to the Co-Host Coach podcast with Joe Roney. This episode of the Co-Host Coach is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents. If you're looking to buy a short-term rental, then contact the STR Savvy Agent team at savvy.realty.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Co-Host Coach. I am Joe Roney, and with me today, I am super excited to have Phillip and Kate Munoz, who are also members of the OG Co-Host Collective Mastermind, and I have learned so much from them over the last couple of years, and so welcome. How you guys doing?
Good. How about you?
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, super excited to have you guys on. I mean, you guys have been in this business longer than I have, so watching what you've just done in the last year and a half is amazing, but you got a couple years before that, so really kind of want to get a roundup scoop on how you guys got started in this business. What made you decide I want to become a short-term rental owner?
I'll let my husband take first pass at this one.
Yeah, so I had some long-term rentals, and I just kind of stumbled in those when the market was down back in 2011. Bought my first long-term rental, and really wasn't intentional about it at all. I just figured I could buy this place, I could rent it out, and it could pay for itself. And that was really the extent of it. And then in January of 2020, I was actually at a work conference for my W-2, and somebody had asked me about Bigger Pockets, if I'd listened to Bigger Pockets at all. And I was like, no, never heard of it. He's like, podcast. And I'm like, yeah, I'd never, heard of them, but never listened to them before. So on the way home from that conference, I decided to check it out and see what it was. And the very first episode that I listened to was Avery Carl's episode talking about short-term rentals and how they were just crushing it and making a ton of money and having a vacation home that paid for itself that you could use. And I'm like, that sounds amazing. Like, we have to do this, So I came home all excited, and I was telling Kate about it and checking out other podcasts too. And I was just, I started to get the real estate bug. At this point, I had 3 long-term rentals, but like I said, I wasn't very intentional about it, wasn't very educated on it. And after listening to Bigger Pockets a little bit and kind of hearing tax advantages and all the long-term wealth that's created and all the different benefits to real estate, it was a no-brainer. So then it was like, all right, I definitely want to go into the vacation space, but I know that I need to get Kate on board with me, because there was no way I could do it myself. I knew that there was too much to learn, and I knew how good she was from a guest communication perspective and getting systems and things like that figured out, which I had no idea about Airbnb. I think at this point, we had only stayed at maybe 1 or 2 Airbnbs like in Europe at this point. So we didn't have a whole lot of experience even staying at Airbnb. So, after a couple months of kind of talking to her about it and working to get her on board, then she was like, all right, let's start looking into it. Let's start doing some research. And so we did. And we went down to Mexico Beach for the very first time, fell in love with the area. And then it was like, all right, this is going to be where we buy our first vacation rental, and let's get this figured out. And so that's where we bought our first one at, and kind of went from there.
Wow, that's awesome. So similar to pretty close area that where I'm at in Panama City Beach. You're just right down the way a little bit, which is interesting. I've driven through Mexico Beach one time. It's an area that I think my wife and I might even move to in a couple of years. Because I really love the area, even though we've only been through it one time, but it is definitely on my list to come check out your places. So you got your first property. When was that?
We closed June 2021.
Yeah.
June 2021. So, really, so you're really only, 3+ years, a little over 3 full years into this, but quickly scaled into a couple other properties. So you got that one in June. When did you get your next one?
So we got our cabin in August of 21. So we were literally going through due diligence periods when we closed on Mexico Beach. And it was one of those things, like I said, we just decided that we were going to go all in on it. Right. And so I wanted to be in the Smokies because everyone was just crushing it in the Smokies as well. But, the first property had to be a beach because we're beach people. So yeah, we got that one in the Smokies in August of 21. And then we went from there. We got a place in Destin in January of 22, bought another single family home in June of 22.
We have a thing for closing in June.
And then we took 2023 off to kind of get things figured out. And then we just bought our 5th vacation rental a couple months ago in Port St. Joe. So in total, we've got 5 vacation rentals and we've got 5 long-term rentals that round out our owned portfolio.
And honestly, that's really the way to do it. I'm personally just in the vacation rental space so far. But getting into some long-term rentals, maybe even some multi-units is definitely on the agenda down the road. But, I got started a little bit different than you guys. You guys actually have more of the traditional of most people how they got into this by starting in the long term and then jumping into short term. So I think I met you through your brother after the short term rental wealth conference back in 22, and then kind of snowballed from there in the accelerator program. So what made you decide after all those to join that accelerator program?
I think it was just a thing of, we had learned so much already, but in order to get to the next level, we needed to get, in room with experts that really knew what they were doing, learn from them, and kind of just work on growing our network, right? Because everything that we had done essentially was sort of on our own, and we had learned from others, starting to listen to Bill Faith and people like that in the industry. But I mean, as far as having like our own network of people that we could talk to on a regular basis and kind of exchange stories with, experiences with, et cetera, like we didn't really have that. And so it was one of those things that was like, all right, we need to kind of make an investment in ourselves to be able to kind of take things to the next level. And so I think that's what really pushed us to get into that program and kind of go forward to the next step.
Yeah, no, and everybody should know my husband is the brainchild behind all of this. And every step of the way, I've looked at him and gone, "Are you crazy?" Because what he left out is in 2020 when he came home, was telling me I was very pregnant with our first, and when we started looking, I was on maternity leave from my W-2. And I just knew he wasn't going to leave it alone. So I was like, okay, first it's got to be a beach. So he gave me a beach, and then we just went from there. And every step along the way, I trust my husband implicitly. But I was like, are you crazy? Are you crazy? And we're here and we love it. And I have a background in HR, which is all about communications, right? And helping people understand why they can or cannot do something. If they do something, how we kind of fix it. Everything's fixable. So very transferable into the short-term rental space.
Yep. What I love is that you guys did this together as a couple, similar to where, my wife and I have started this business together. And when you can do it together, and we've met lots of people in this industry, and there are some people that it's just the husband or if it's just the wife. And I've talked to a few people that wanted to join our mastermind that were like, well, I'm kind of doing it on my own, but, my husband or wife is not on board and, I just need to get some help or some assistance. And man, I really think it's so important, especially, and, one of the things we learned in that accelerator program was your life plan and being able to make that life plan together. And what you guys have done is pretty awesome. So, really, really impressed. So, jumped into you're owning five now, but a little over a year ago when I started my mastermind, you guys were top of the list of people I wanted to be a part of it, and I've really enjoyed having that. And that's when you decided that co-hosting might be the right thing for you. So, what made you think about that?
I think we found a rhythm in the space and we really enjoy it. And most days, every day, some days are challenging, right? Everybody in this space knows that you have days that make you question your sanity. But for us, it was just a no-brainer. We enjoy it. I enjoy it. I'm very good at the communication side. I'm very good at, looking at something and going, "Ooh, we can make that better and we can do it on a budget or make it fit whatever is going to work for the owner. And we can help them make more money." At the end of the day, we're empaths to our core, and we just want to help. And we saw this as a way to not only help others, but also to, make a business out of it. And why not make money doing something you're good at that really doesn't take you any extra time necessarily when you're already doing the same thing for your properties?
I really think that's the part of co-hosting that I absolutely love the most is that, the owners that we get to work with, have hired struggling or failing property managers to do it for them because they got into this space thinking, it's a really easy passive income. I'm just going to make money. And then all of a sudden, especially if they've bought in the last couple of years, they're not making money, and the properties are not paying for themselves. And, typically if you're hiring a property manager, you're not looking for a 20% cash on cash return if you're going to be hiring a property manager, but most of the people we work with want it to pay for itself. And you're able to go in as co-hosts and really make an impact in the revenue. What are some of the things that you do to really help owners that you start co-hosting for increase their revenue?
I think it's an immediate upgrade. We have not walked a property or met with an owner that there was an immediate opportunity to upgrade what was in the property, whether it be just bedding, TVs. We walked into a 5-bedroom beach house that had like a 19-inch TV on the dresser that didn't even have a plug to plug it in. So, I mean, those are immediate things that we've been able to do. And you know what's so interesting? Maybe we're just likable people most days, but it seems like we're able to establish immediate trust with the owner or some type of, at least they're willing to listen to us and do. And we've been able to immediately turn that into a return on their investment. So that's been really helpful. I think the other thing is, not all property managers are bad. I'm not here to say that, but a lot of the really big ones, they're just not getting into the nitty gritty details and walking that property, ensuring that property is being maintained appropriately and that maintenance really is out there being proactive versus reactive. And sometimes their reactiveness is just really shoddy work. So we're in our properties all the time. I mean, if not monthly, then probably once every 60 to 90 days, we're in all of our properties and we're doing the hands-on maintenance. We're telling the owners about things that are going on and we're giving them that constant feedback. So there's a constant flow of communication, which I really think has been, beneficial for the owner, for us, but also translates into happy guests. Because if we're talking to owners and saying, hey, here's the feedback we're getting, here's what we need to do, and they implement, immediate guest satisfaction, which puts more money in their pocket.
Yep, and I think that's what, your business model is very similar to ours. We don't want to take over average properties, and if it is an average property, we want to take it to the next level. And in the previous podcast, I've talked about there's different ways of co-hosting, and there's no wrong way. There are co-hosts that just want to take over properties and start managing them, and that is fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But I really think as this short-term rental space continues to evolve and change, co-hosts like you that are going in and making these changes are going to make the biggest impact and going to continue to grow and get more people that want to hire you, which is obviously the goal. We don't necessarily want to be a hundred, property management company, but being able to actually physically go into the properties, I think is huge. And it's easier to handle an issue when a guest contacts you at 9 o'clock on a Friday night if you've stayed in that house and you know where everything is, rather than a property that's across the country and you're just a keyboard warrior sitting back doing guest communication. So you said you go in every 60 to 90 days. Is that just your co-host properties, your properties, or how often, and do you have like a checklist that you go through?
We probably should have a checklist. We'll add that to our list. We've been very strategic about the co-host properties that we've taken on to ensure that we're only taking on properties that are either immediately within, 20 to 30 minutes of a house that we own, because we are obsessive about our homes, making sure that they're our investments, right? So we're protecting them and taking care of them. So for us, we're 20 to 30 minutes within driving of our property. So back to your question about, how often are we in them or what are we doing? We are walking them. We're looking at supplies. So when we're there, we're looking at supplies. We're walking through every room to say, okay, how are things holding up? Are our teams doing what they're supposed to be doing? Again, we'll announce sometimes that we're coming, but sometimes it's just, I'm driving to Florida. I'm going to go see our houses. We have openings. I don't tell them I'm coming. It's never an aha, but I want to walk into what our guests are walking into. I also think that's a big miss sometimes when our teams know that we're coming, is they make everything perfect. I don't expect people to be perfect. We're human. So I want to get a realistic preview of what our guests are walking into. So we're walking in, looking at every room, looking at how our team's doing. We're checking the cleanliness ourselves underneath beds, dust, baseboards, and then checking supplies. We're also, checking remotes, looking at light bulbs. We don't have a checklist, back to your question, but we will get one. What would you add?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things we kind of complement each other, right? I mean, Kate is very big on the cleaning aspect, the design aspect, making sure all that stuff is on point. I am more of the maintenance person. Like, I want to make sure we're getting HVAC service twice a year, air filters are getting changed. We're doing all those things. So it's sort of like we both have our own mental checklist in our heads for the areas that we cover, and we just complement each other really well, hitting the things that she's really good at, and I hit the things that I'm really good at, and it just kind of comes together.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think, there's a lot of times that I get to go visit the properties without my wife, and then there's times that we get to go together depending on what our schedule is, and I'm sure it's similar with you guys. And, so I know that when I'm going, I'm looking at some of those same things and not necessarily looking at the other things. And then when my wife does get to come, it's a different experience. But I agree, being able to go in and, like you said, it's not an aha moment, but it is in a way, right? You want to make sure your cleaners are doing a good job, and if they know you're coming, yeah, they're going to know for sure. And some of these big property management companies, they do have inspectors that'll go in and inspect or whatever. But that's still just somebody else that you're paying to do that job. And are they doing a full inspection like you would do as the owner of your co-host company? And I think that makes a huge difference. So what's next? So how many total properties are you co-hosting now, and how many more properties are you looking to add on?
We're hireable for the right for the right owner. The other thing I wanted to add, Joe, I forgot. I'm sorry. Going back to your previous question, I think another thing that we've done really well and we're really protective of is a lot of there's bigger cleaning companies, right? And to your point, inspectors, they have inspectors, but if they don't know your house, how much of a great job can they really do? Are they going to notice that your pillows aren't on the right bed, right? I have Euro pillows on my king beds, and I've walked in and they've been on my bunk bed. I'm like, whoa, that's not how it goes. There's a lot to say for when a guest walks into a house and it looks just like the pictures. That's huge. They're not going to go for the cleanliness and be like, yes, this is what I booked, versus walking in and going, oh my God, this looks nothing like what I booked. What did you book, honey? So that's something we've really done a good job on, hiring the smaller teams and kind of going back to being in our properties all the time, is making sure that whoever is in our house and knows us as either co-hosts or the owners, and knows our expectations. We're very clear. We don't accept mediocrity. When we agree to work together, it's a relationship. We're relying on you to really drive and make us successful. We'll pay you whatever you want, but we expect you to do the job.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, I
something I
agree.
think that we've been able to separate ourselves on.
Yeah, and to just have that attention to detail, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest things that's missed in this business is the attention to detail. Like Kate said, I mean, when you walk into a property, you want it to look exactly like what you booked, and I think that that's a thing that misses a lot of times, especially with some of the bigger property management companies. Like Kate said, I mean, there's some good ones out there, right? But I mean, typical property managers, they will take on any property in any condition, and it doesn't matter to them. It's just another door to them, right? And so they just implement it into their process and with their teams of 10, 20, 50 people, however many people, right? But I mean, there's not a lot of consistency in terms of who's going in there from a cleaning perspective, from an inspector perspective, to make sure that things look the way that they are or are in top-notch condition. And I think in today's times, right, I mean, it's getting more and more competitive to really stand out. And people, when they spend their hard-earned money, especially nowadays, I mean, it's very tight for a lot of people to take vacations. So when they are spending their hard-earned money, they want to go and stay at where they book. They want to get what they're expecting. And I think that's one of the biggest things, is just being able to deliver exactly what they're expecting, and then even deliver more, right? Because a lot of times guests are thrilled to see how well stocked the kitchen is, or some of the extra amenities that we provide, whether it be beach towels, beach chairs, games, so there's different things that really help set you apart and really help take you to the next level. And when you can drive that for your properties and for your co-host properties, it really makes the owner say, wow, like I'm getting a very great service with this team. Guests are loving it. And because our owners get to see all the reviews that come in, owners see all that stuff, right? So it's like when they see these raving reviews, they can't help but to be satisfied and thrilled to have you hosting their property and being in charge of the property, because they know that, one, they're making more money, and two, their property is being taken care of, and three, you are delivering a great experience for their guests, and then when they come and stay themselves, they get a great experience as well. So it's like the icing on the cake for a lot of owners whenever you're able to deliver a great service like that.
Yeah, but I think one of my favorite things is when an owner does get to stay at their property and I get that message from them saying, wow, this place, like, you guys are doing a great job maintaining this place, or it was so clean, or the cleaner's doing a good job, or whatever it may be. And I have some owners that are very hands-on, and they'll go in, and if they see a few things they want to fix, they'll fix them. And then I have some owners that when they go to their property, they just want to be on vacation. And that is fine. I'm good with either type of owner. Although I will say the couple owners that I have that do some of the maintenance while they're there, it's really great, because that's one less thing that we got to hire a handyman for to take care of some of those little things. So, are you finding your owners are pretty hands off, or you have some hands on?
We've been very fortunate with our owners, and our owners are we have one that's very hands off, and we're co-host, right? So they own all the accounts. They can see all the messages coming through Airbnb or VRBO, and I can see if they read them, right? And I have no problem with it. He's very hands off. Our other owners are a little more involved. At least they're staying at their properties. And I think one of the biggest compliments, at least I thought that we got recently, was one of our owners stayed at her beach house, and she was like, "This has been the most relaxing trip I've ever had staying in my own house." I was like, done, sold. You're keeping us forever. Uh, but as for, I think it's just been a mix, and we're finding how to navigate navigating with guests is different than navigating with owners. And I think we have one owner who's got a big, beautiful beach house that has just crushed it this year with us. I could not be more excited for her. But she's not afraid to push back and be like, "I don't think I need a new couch." I'm like, no, you need a new couch. We need a new couch. So we're still learning how to navigate those things. But it's expensive. This is money coming out of their pocket. So I think it just goes back to building relationships and having that trust and helping them see the value of like a new couch when we're moving into the next year.
Yeah, no, I think and I think it's important to look at those updates every year in the off season. And I just went through with every one of my owners and gave them each suggestions. And Jen and I are going down to PCB next week to do some accent walls at one of the properties and hang some wallpaper and switch around some bedding and do that at one property. And then we're looking at maybe adding a pool at another property and working with the owners there. So I think that's one of the things that a traditional property manager is never going to do, right? And a property manager is never to come in and say, "Hey, if you did this to improve your home, we can make you more money." You're like you said, you're just another door for most of those property management companies, and that's why I can see this co-hosting business continuing to grow and more people, moving into that space. So what's next as far as how many co-hosting properties you guys are wanting to add on in the next 3 months, 6 months? We might have some listeners out there looking for someone.
We would love that. So it sounds like we're going to be on the same coast next week, Joe. We're going to have to figure that out offline. We're going down to set up our fifth co-host property in Port St. Joe, which is where we personally own 3 homes. In co-host, this will be our second in the area. So for us, we're looking to make a few strategic adds to what we consider our boutique family of co-host homes. I would say probably maybe up to another 5.
Up to another 5 right now. Like, we want to be smart with how we grow, right? Like we're not looking to just take on as many as possible. We want to make sure that we find the right properties that really fit, our portfolio and what we're working towards, and providing a great luxury stay, a great property. And our focus is really on the Forgotten Coast, Mexico Beach, Port St. Joe, Cape San Blas area. That's really where we want to focus, because we love it there. We try to get down there as much as possible as a family, and anytime that we can be down there, we just love it. So that's our focus. Although we have properties in Destin, we have property in PCB, we are up in the Smokies as well. Our focus right now is on the Forgotten Coast, because we just love to spend time there.
But we are open. While Forgotten Coast is our home away from home, we are open, right? We're very good. We're good at what we do. And it doesn't matter if it's in Destin, Port St. Joe, or the Smoky Mountains. We're good at what we do. And if it's the right fit for us and for the owner, then it's a no-brainer.
Yeah, no, I agree. Have you considered St. George Island? Have you ever been there, and have you considered that area?
So, funny story, whenever we go to our properties, rarely are we ever not working. So Phillip owes me, I think, a day date out to St. George Island, and probably Carabel too, which is right over from us. So we haven't, but we will be.
Yep, yep. My best friend that I grew up with is there right now. He got married. I was there in St. George Island for his wedding 10 years ago this week. And so they're there for their 10-year anniversary this week. And if I was in town, we would definitely be down there visiting. So I would definitely say that should be on your hit list, and definitely an area that I don't know of any other co-hosts that are in that area. And it's an area that I'm actually interested in exploring as well, just because it's something very different. And, you got to cross a 5-mile bridge just to get over there. But I can tell you the one thing when you get there is you are truly on island time. There are no big stores, there are no shopping centers. There's a Subway, a couple little restaurants, a couple little bars, and a little grocery store, and that's really it. And it's a really cool place to be. So definitely need to check that place out. And we will definitely need to hook up when we are both down there here in the next week or so. So one of the things that I've really, really enjoyed is having you guys in the co-host mastermind. I think, everybody else in the mastermind learns so much value from both of you when you're on the calls. How is that mastermind experience have been for you guys? And are you involved in any other masterminds, or is that it?
So for me, the mastermind has given me community, right? Which is hard, I think, to find and build. So, Joe, thank you for helping for essentially building it, establishing the foundation, and allowing us to kind of leverage off of you to expand it. So it's given me community, which is huge. Um,
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I mean, as we started talking about co-hosting, it was, we knew that we wanted to do it, but we weren't really sure how to get started in it. And I think that being able to leverage, you and your experience, Joe, I mean, was huge for us. We were able to ask you a ton of questions and kind of figure out, because I'm one of those people that I want to know everything before I dive into it. I want to have, everything figured out. I'm not really so much of a figure it out on the fly type of guy, because to me, it's my reputation on the line, right? So I want to make sure that I know what I'm doing before I dive into it and I take on the responsibility of somebody else's property, somebody else's investment. And so being able to leverage you, Joe, and your experience, bounce questions off of you, I think was huge in helping us to really take that step forward. Because it was like I'd listened to the podcast, I'd done the research, I'd been to conferences, we had our own properties, had those experiences, but we didn't quite know the right way to get things set up from a co-host perspective, how to handle things, how to really approach those conversations. So I think when we started those initial conversations before the even mastermind was even formed, I mean that was huge for us and really helping us to kind of take that first step and lock down that first property and kind of start growing from there. So I mean that was huge for us, and we owe you a ton for that. And then as far as the mastermind goes, I mean, yeah, this really is the only mastermind that we're involved in. We still kind of stay very close to other people that were in the accelerator program. Kate just went out to the Bill's Montana program and met with some other people that were there and kind of formed a little network there and stuff. But I mean, this is really our one mastermind that we kind of focus on right now, and it's really been huge for us, helping us to grow and kind of figure out where we want to take our co-host business.
and also a safe space. I think there are a lot of groups out there. I think you mentioned keyboard warriors earlier, where you go looking for feedback, and sometimes if you don't get feedback, you get reprimanded or scolded, or there's keyboard warriors just being not so nice people. So knowing that we have your mastermind, it's a safe space in which we feel comfortable asking questions, because we either really don't know, we're really looking for some opinions, and not opinions to where like you're, put down or told you're terrible, but just opinions like, hey, here's how I would handle it. So that's been huge for us as well. And we owe you so much.
I appreciate it, and it's been great having you guys. I think one of the coolest things about our mastermind is everybody owns a short-term rental, and that's kind of a prerequisite. That's what I decided up front. I did not want keyboard warriors coming into our mastermind that are just trying to learn how to manage properties from their living room and never going to actually be hands-on or never visit them or really even know what they're doing. I think having that vested interest to be an investor yourself makes the co-host that much better. That doesn't mean that people can't be successful if they don't own other properties. And there's a lot of people that get into this business by going into the co-hosting space to grow those funds to be able to buy their first property. And that is great. It's just not the fit for our mastermind, because we want to have experienced investors. Even if you only own one property, at least you've done it. You've gotten your feet wet. You've taken money out of your own pocket to invest it into it. So you actually understand what these owners are going through that you're co-hosting for, because you've been there and done that. And I think that's one of the hardest things that I see is there's so many people in this space that just want to do it to make extra money, and they don't actually invest themselves. And it's hard to say to an owner that this is their investment, this is their retirement, whatever it may be. This is a major purchase for them, to say, I'm going to trust you to take this over with zero experience and zero vested interest for yourself. So I think that's been a big win, in our co-host mastermind, is having everybody having their own. So really enjoyed having you guys in the mastermind. I love our Tuesday calls. It's definitely one of my favorite days of the week. I did join one other mastermind in a Builders of Authority mastermind, just so I can get some advice from people outside of the short-term rental space. And that's been really, really good and helpful. But last thing that I have is, you were in Montana at Bill's thing. So what are one or two things that you got out of that event that you thought could be game changers for you?
I think the thing that comes immediately to mind, and for our working relationship when it comes to short-term rentals, Philip is the numbers, making it work, telling me yes we can, no we can't. I'm the once we have it, it's secured, I'm running it, right? So for me, the the lands of opportunity and the way that you can obtain properties, whether that's through creative financing. Like again, Philip knows all of this, right? I'm a little more on the fringe when it comes to that. I don't want to know how much we owe. Just tell me how much I have to make and you pay the bill. We're good. We're good there.
Yep.
So I think kind of understanding from Pace Warby.
Yeah.
I think we have opportunity there with, fast money versus, the slower money, which the slower money is going to be like your short-term rentals. The fast money is going to be, finding properties and flipping them. There's opportunity. So I think that was a takeaway for me. The other takeaway was just really finding ways to set yourself apart. It's not about being in the Smokies right now. I think is a great example. There are so many cabins, right? And we own there. We have a great place, but we don't have the $5 million view on top of, over there looking over the Great Smoky Mountain National Park. So how can we set ourselves apart? How can we capitalize that? And really marketing. I'm not a marketing type person. Philip's got more of that background than I do. I'm a communications person. I can talk to people. I can lay something out. I can make things better, but I need help with marketing. And marketing right now more than ever is huge to the success of our properties, our co-host properties. You can't just throw something up online anymore like you could in 2020 or 2021 and it rent. If you want to make money and you want to pay the bills and even, be profitable, you have to be a marketing guru. So for me, it was that takeaway and setting ourselves apart that we're really going to focus on.
And just to add to that for a second, I mean, that cabin that we bought as our second property, right? We didn't know better. So we bought in an HOA community and we're one of like 35 cabins in the community. So it makes it much harder for you to really set yourself apart. So just going back to Kate's marketing example, I mean, finding great properties that have customizations or have things that can really help set you apart, I think is huge. And so I think that was kind of a learning experience too, is to go and see Bill's properties, see it in person, see what sets it apart from some of the other places. I think was pretty huge for you as well.
Yeah, it made me realize that we have some properties that we probably need to, let somebody else take, sell it to them, and then find something that really does suit kind of our sweet spot and gives us opportunity to, add to make it stand out.
Yep. And I agree. I mean, obviously, we hear the term super properties, and any property can be a super property, but there's still, certain design, locations, amenities. There's certain things that can set yourself apart. But sometimes if the location wasn't right, or you can't add the right amenities, we're on under contract. We're closing on actually our one of our houses in PCB this week, and we're upgrading to a house that has a pool because the current one that we have has a septic in the backyard. We can't, hook up to sewer in that particular street, so we can't add a pool. And in the beach market, that's the one thing that I've truly learned in the last 2 years is the pool is all the world and the difference if you're not on the beach. If you're going to be a block or two from the beach, that's fine, but that pool really makes a big difference. So, and we're getting ready to level up and upgrade to a property that has a pool and get us to the next level to have that super type property that's going to perform better. So, and I think you just did that. You had added a pool to one of your newest property that you got in Port St. Joe, right?
We did, and we've watched it just take off. It was already a great property. You could see the beach, ocean views, right, and fenced in backyard, great lot. But we added a pool, and it's just been unstoppable.
Yep. Well, I have, I've loved watching you guys grow. I absolutely, love you guys as a couple. So thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing your story with us. And looking forward to having you guys on the call next week.
Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Joe.
Thank you, Joe. We appreciate it.
All right. Talk to you soon.
All
right. Bye.